I still remember the way the air felt that night. Thick, almost syrupy, as if the world itself wanted me to hesitate. My shoes crunched on the gravel driveway leading up to my uncle's old colonial house, the one my family always used for gatherings. From the outside, it looked like a postcard. White siding, black shutters, warm light glowing behind lace curtains. A place where laughter and comfort should live. But my stomach twisted as I reached the front porch. I hadn't been invited, not officially. The family group chat had gone silent for me months ago. After the argument, nobody wanted to revisit. Yet I told myself they wouldn't care if I showed up. Blood is blood. Family forgives, right? I rang the bell. Footsteps. The door opened, and there stood my cousin Jenna, wearing a silk dress the color of spilled wine. Her eyes widened when she saw me, like she'd just spotted a ghost on her doorstep. "Sorry," she said, her voice low and tight. "You're not invited." For a moment I thought she was joking. I forced a laugh, but it sounded hollow. "Come on, Jenna. It's family dinner." Her hand clutched the doorframe as if to block me. Behind her, I saw the long dining table through the hall, candles flickering, silverware gleaming, everyone seated, everyone except me. Their heads turned in unison, a row of faces frozen mid-bite. Silence spread down the table like spilled ink. No one spoke. No one welcomed me. Jenna's smile was stretched too tight, her lips trembling as if she wanted to slam the door, but couldn't. "It's better if you go," she whispered. I didn't. I pushed past her. The smell of roasted meat and rosemary wrapped around me as I stepped inside. But instead of warmth, I felt a chill slide down my spine. The chandelier above hummed faintly, its crystals swaying though there was no breeze. Every chair was filled. My mother at the far end, my father beside her, uncles, aunts, cousins, all dressed too formally, as if this was no simple dinner but a ceremony, and they all stared at me with eyes that did not blink. I swallowed hard. "What's going on?" My mother rose slowly, her face pale under the candlelight. "You shouldn't be here," she said. Not angry, not loving, just final. The sound of her voice cracked something inside me. I had come hoping for reconciliation, for a seat at the table I'd been denied for too long. Instead, I felt like a trespasser in my own bloodline. I glanced at the plates. Every one of them carried the same dish. Slices of meat, pink at the center, arranged with surgical precision. But the smell wasn't just of food. There was something metallic beneath it. Iron-rich, coppery, blood. My throat closed. "What are you eating?" No one answered. Forks scraped plates in eerie unison, chewing, swallowing, staring. I stumbled back a step, my shoulder brushing against the old grandfather clock in the hall. It ticked louder than it should have, like a heartbeat keeping time with my panic. Then at last, my father spoke. "Leave," he said, his voice flat as stone. But I couldn't. I needed to know. I scanned their faces. People I'd grown up with. People who'd kissed scraped knees and held birthday candles. But tonight they weren't my family. They were something else. Something united against me. I took another step toward the table. My hand trembled, but my voice found steel. "I'm not going anywhere until you tell me what the hell is happening." That's when I saw it. At the head of the table, just behind the wine glasses, lay a large platter draped with linen. Someone's hand, my uncle's, I think, slid the cloth aside, and beneath it, I froze. It wasn't just meat. It wasn't beef, or lamb, or pork. It was a shape I recognized too well, even carved apart. A human arm, pale, thin, fingernails still painted a faint pink. My cousin Jenna's dress, that shade of wine. The world tilted, black spots crowding my vision. My family's eyes glowed in the candlelight, unblinking, waiting, and my mother whispered the words that would chase me for the rest of my life. "You were never supposed to see this." The room seemed to shrink around me, the walls breathing with each flicker of candlelight. My legs refused to move. I wanted to run, to tear open the front door and disappear into the night. But my body was cement. My eyes were chained to that platter, to the pale arm resting like some grotesque centerpiece. Jenna's voice cracked behind me. "You shouldn't have come." I turned. She stood half in shadow, her wine-red dress swaying as if an unseen wind moved it. Her face looked softer now, almost pleading, but her eyes darted toward the others as though afraid of punishment. "What is this?" My voice came out strangled. "What the hell are you doing?" My father's fork clicked against his plate. He chewed, swallowed, and finally met my eyes. "Tradition," he said, the word heavy, deliberate. Tradition. The word hit me like a blade. Families have traditions. Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthday cake. Not this. Not carving flesh and serving it with rosemary sprigs. The table erupted, not with laughter, not with conversation, but with whispers. The sound slithered along the walls, circling me, hissing in voices I half recognized. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins, all murmuring words that blended into something ancient, guttural. The language didn't belong to this century, maybe not to this world. My skin prickled. Every hair on my arms stood on end. Jenna reached for me suddenly, her hand cold on my wrist. "Please," she whispered, her lips barely moving. "Don't ask. Don't stay. Leave now, while you still can." Her grip was fierce, almost desperate. But before I could pull back, a chair scraped across the floor. My mother rose again. "She belongs to us now," she said. My stomach dropped. I followed her gaze to the platter, to the arm that looked so much like Jenna's. Jenna's face drained of color. She shook her head violently, as if denying fate itself. "No," she whispered, louder this time. "Not me. Not yet." My uncle, the one with the knife still in his hand, stood slowly. His eyes were wet, glistening, as if holding back tears, but his mouth curved in a smile that made my blood run cold. "Sacrifice must be honored," he said. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, rising to a chant. The air turned heavy, suffocating. Something inside me snapped. I yanked free from Jenna's grip and stumbled backward, knocking into the grandfather clock again. Its pendulum swung violently now, ticking faster than it should, faster than time's itself. My chest tightened as if invisible hands pressed down on me. "I don't know what you think this is," I rasped, my voice shaking. "But I'm not going to be a part of it. I'm not going to watch this." No one answered, not with words. Instead, my family rose as one. Chairs slid back in perfect unison. Aunts, uncles, cousins, parents, every one of them stood, their faces blank, their eyes burning with that same candlelit hunger. I backed toward the foyer. The front door was only a few feet away, if I could just reach the handle. "Run," Jenna hissed behind me. "For God's sake, run." I spun, and for a second I thought she might come with me. But her feet stayed rooted to the floor. Her hands clenched at her sides. Tears streaked her cheeks as though she already knew what choice she'd made. I reached the door. My fingers curled around the brass knob. Cold, I twisted. It didn't move. Locked. My pulse thundered in my ears. I rattled the handle, slammed my shoulder into the wood. Nothing. Behind me, footsteps approached, slow, deliberate, echoing like a death march. The chant grew louder. The words were meaningless, yet seared into my brain, vibrating inside my skull. "Open the door." I screamed, pounding with my fists. A hand landed on my shoulder. I froze, not rough, not forceful, gentle. Jenna's hand. She leaned close, her breath hot against my ear. "The more you fight," she whispered, "the more they'll want you." I turned. ready to demand answers. But her face, God, her face. It was changing. Her eyes had grown darker, pupils swallowing the color. Her smile quivered as if two halves of her were warring, one begging me to escape, the other resigned to the ritual. And then the lights went out. The candles snuffed themselves, one by one, until the only glow left came from the grandfather clock, its face shining faintly like a pale moon. The ticking filled the silence, louder, louder, until it was the only sound in the world. When the last tick struck, the whispers stopped, and in that vacuum of silence, my mother's voice cut through the dark. "He stays." The chanting still echoed in my skull long after it stopped, like an aftertaste of madness. My family remained standing, unmoving, eyes fixed on me. I couldn't breathe under their collective stare. My hand slid along the wall, searching blindly for an escape. That's when I felt it. A seam in the wallpaper, a faint outline of a door I didn't remember from childhood visits. It was narrow, hidden almost flush with the wall, and my fingertips trembled as they traced its edges. The whispers had gone silent, but I felt them in the room, pressing against my skin, urging me toward it. "What's behind there?" I asked, my voice hoarse. Nobody answered. Nobody moved, except Jenna. Her eyes flicked toward the door, then back at me. It was the smallest gesture, but it carried the weight of a scream. She didn't want me to open it, which meant I had to. My nails dug into the wood around the frame until I found a latch. Rust flaked under my touch. I pulled. The door groaned like a wounded animal. Behind me, chairs screeched. My mother's voice slashed through the silence. "Don't." But I already had. The door cracked open. A draft of cold, stale air rushed out, smelling of damp stone and something fouler, something rotten that clawed at the back of my throat. I gagged, but pushed the door wider. The hall behind it was narrow, descending, steps carved from stone, slick with moisture, vanishing into blackness. I looked back. Every face at the table stared at me with something beyond anger, fear, not of me, but of what lay below. My father's fists clenched at his sides. "Close it," he said, voice low, trembling. For the first time that night I saw cracks in his mask. He was scared, terrified, and if he was afraid, I had to see why. I stepped through. The stone staircase groaned under my weight. The deeper I went, the colder the air became, wrapping around me like wet cloth. Shadows bled into one another until the world was nothing but black. Only the faint light from the dining room above clung to my back like a dying flame. I descended farther. The whispers returned. Not above, not around, but below. They floated up through the stairwell, voices weaving in that same guttural, impossible language. The words curled into my ears, into my mind, like worms burrowing deep. My knees buckled. My hand brushed the wall, rough stone, damp with slime. Then at the bottom I found another door. This one wasn't wood. It was iron, heavy. The surface was scarred with gouges, as though something inside had clawed to get out. A single keyhole gleamed in the faint light. I crouched, peering through. At first only darkness, then movement, a shuffle, a breath. Wet, ragged, inhuman, I staggered back, my heel striking stone. My pulse thudded in my ears. The thing behind the door sniffed, slowly, deeply. It was smelling me. Chains rattled. The iron groaned. Whatever was in there was waiting. I turned to flee, but the narrow stairwell was no longer empty. They were there, my family. Silent, blocking the way back up, Jenna stood closest. Her face was ghost pale in the thin light. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "Only for me. They'll feed it if you don't leave." I shook my head, my throat dry. "Feed it what?" Her eyes darted to the iron door, then slowly, back to me. The meaning struck harder than any blow. Not what? Who? The chains rattled again, harder this time. The door shivered in its frame. I stumbled backward, closer to the thing in the dark. My family didn't move. They only watched. And then my mother's voice, soft, calm, deliberate, floated down the stairs. You opened it. Now you belong to it. The candlelight from the hidden stairwell still clung to me as I climbed back into the dining room. The door had shut behind me on its own, sealing whatever nightmare breathed down there. But the memory of its rattle still throbbed in my ears, like chains dragging across stone. When I stepped into the dining hall again, every pair of eyes was waiting. No whispers this time, no chanting, just silence, so thick I could feel it pressing against my chest. You weren't supposed to open it. My father's voice cracked like old wood. His fists trembled on the edge of the table. I had to know. My words sounded small, thin. What is that thing? No one answered. I slammed my hand against the table. The plates rattled. The candles flickered. Tell me. At the far end, my mother rose. Her chair screeched across the floor. She looked so pale, so tired, as though centuries of secrets weighed on her shoulders. It is older than us, she said. Older than this house, older than this country. We keep it here because it keeps us. The words made no sense, yet I felt their weight settle into my bones. Keeps you? My laugh was sharp, desperate. Keeps you how? By eating people? Aunt Marjorie's lips curled into something between a smile and a grimace. By keeping us alive. The room spun. My legs nearly buckled. You can't mean. We feed it what it needs. My uncle interrupted, his knife still gleaming from the earlier feast. His eyes were fever bright, and in return, it gives us what no doctor, no God, no law ever could. Health, wealth, protection. My stomach lurched. The meat on their plates, the arm on the platter. I stumbled back. You're monsters. My father's chair scraped as he stood, his face twisted, not in anger, but in sorrow. No, we are survivors. Jenna's breath hitched. Her hands trembled on the table. It was supposed to be me tonight, she whispered. Her eyes darted to the hidden door, then back at me. But now, no. I shook my head violently. No, you're not dragging me into this. You already are, my mother said softly. Something cracked inside me. The fear curdled into rage. You think I'll just sit here? Watch you butcher your own? Feed it like livestock? My uncle stepped closer, his knife glinting. His smile was too wide. You don't have to watch. The meaning sank in. I was the replacement. My pulse thundered. I reached for the candlestick nearest me, gripping it like a weapon. The wax burned my fingers, but I didn't let go. Stay back. Laughter rippled around the table. Not joyful, not mocking, empty, soulless. Put it down, my father said. He took a step toward me, palms raised. Don't make this harder. I'll make it harder for all of you. My voice shook, but the rage steadied my hands. If anyone touches me, I swear. Jenna moved suddenly, darting between me and the others. Her arms spread wide, her face streaked with tears. Stop! You can't. He doesn't belong to it. Not him. My mother's eyes burned with something fierce and final. He opened the door. The choice is made. No. Jenna screamed, her voice breaking. The family surged forward as one, their shadows looming against the walls. I raised the candlestick, heart hammering, every muscle ready to shatter. And for a split second, the room seemed to split in two. The family on one side, Jenna on the other, and me in the middle, cornered between blood and darkness. The grandfather clock struck once. Midnight. The iron door below groaned. Chains rattled, and I realized whatever was locked beneath us wasn't waiting anymore. The confrontation didn't end. It only paused, like a predator crouching before the strike. My family stood frozen, their eyes gleaming in the candlelight. Jenna's breathing was ragged beside me, her arms still outstretched, as if she could shield me. And then, as if summoned, the clock struck again. Once. Twice. The sound carried down the walls, vibrating through the floorboards, pulling my gaze toward the corner of the room I hadn't noticed before. A cabinet, small, ordinary, out of place. I don't know why I moved toward it. Maybe the sound drew me. Maybe the whispers guided me. Maybe some part of me believed answers lay inside. The wood creaked beneath my fingers as I pulled the cabinet open. What I found wasn't plates or linens. It was paper, stacks of it, yellowed with age, edges curled, tied with string. Folders thick with photographs, documents stamped with seals I didn't recognize, pages filled with cramped handwriting in ink that looked more like dried blood than ink. I pulled one free. The photo clipped to it made my stomach heave. It showed a child, barely older than 5, standing at the edge of the very same staircase I'd descended earlier, his eyes wide, terrified. Behind him, blurred but unmistakable, was the iron door. The caption beneath the photo was scrawled in trembling letters, "Taken for the offering, 1937. My hands shook as I flipped through more, photo after photo, decade after decade, always the same. Someone young, someone innocent, chosen, documented. Some faces were crossed out, others were circled. The whispers returned, not from my family this time, but from the papers themselves. My eyes burned, as if the words crawled off the page into me. Jenna's hand gripped my arm. "Don't look at those," she hissed, but I couldn't stop. Another file, a black and white photo of my grandfather, younger than I'd ever seen him, standing beside the open iron door. His hand rested on the shoulder of a girl whose face was scratched out so violently the paper tore. Another caption, ink faded, but still legible. Sacrifice preserved the line. 1952. My heart stuttered. My grandfather. The man who had bounced me on his knee, who smelled of pipe tobacco and old books. He had stood where I stood. He had fed the thing below. The truth seeped in like rot. This wasn't madness. This was legacy, every generation, every decade. Someone chosen, someone sacrificed, and now, me. No. My voice cracked, barely a whisper. This isn't real. This can't be real. Behind me, my father's voice was steady, almost gentle. It is real. It has always been real. We don't choose this life. We inherit it. I spun. The folder clutched against my chest. Inherit? You call this an inheritance? It's murder. My uncle stepped forward, his knife still gleaming in his hand. It's survival. Do you think we've lived this long, this well, by chance? Every illness avoided, every disaster escaped. It's the bargain. It's the price. I hurled the folder at him. Papers spilled across the floor like bleeding memories. Faces stared up from photographs. Silent screams frozen in time. You're insane, I spat. But even as I said it, I knew the madness wasn't theirs alone anymore. It was mine now too, because once you've seen the truth, you can't unsee it. Once you've opened the door, you can't close it. The whispers swelled, louder, harsher. Not from the family, not from the papers. From below, the iron door rattled in its frame. Chains strained. Something inside pulled harder, hungrier. Jenna clutched my arm tighter. Her nails dug into my skin. "Please," she begged. "Don't fight them. If you fight them, it chooses you faster." I stared at her, my chest burning. "And if I don't?" Her lips trembled. She didn't answer. The grandfather clock struck again. Midnight deepened. The house shook with it. And then I understood the real horror. The offering wasn't about choosing at all. It was about being chosen. I don't remember collapsing. One moment. The whispers from below were clawing at my skull. And the next, the floor rose up to meet me. My head struck wood. The world went black. And then I dreamed I was outside. The house loomed behind me, its windows blazing like eyes. But the sky wasn't night anymore. It wasn't day either. It was a bruised, endless twilight. The air the color of old ash. The trees bent toward me, their branches like claws, their leaves whispering in a language I almost understood. I ran. Gravel crunched beneath my feet. My lungs burned. The whispers followed, growing louder, overlapping, until I couldn't tell if they came from the trees, the ground, or my own mind. Then I saw her, Jenna. She stood at the edge of the woods, her dress torn, her face pale. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. She lifted her hand, pointing, not at me, but at the ground between us. I looked down. The earth writhed. Hands pushed up through the soil, small hands, thin hands, hundreds of them. Fingers grasped at my ankles, at my calves, pulling me down into the dirt. Their touch was ice, their nails sharp. I screamed, trying to wrench free, but every movement sank me deeper. The soil swallowed me to my knees, then my waist. The hands weren't just pulling. They were climbing, dragging themselves out of the earth. Faces emerged, pale, hollow-eyed, children, dozens of them. Their mouths moved in perfect unison, whispering the same guttural chant I'd heard around the dining table. One child's face pressed close to mine, lips blue, eyes wide and unblinking. "Join us," he whispered. His voice was mine. I thrashed, but the ground split open beneath me. Darkness yawned wide. A stairwell of stone stretched downward into infinity, and at the bottom, the iron door waited. Its chains glowed red, pulsing like veins. Something behind it moved, massive, shifting in shadows. The air vibrated with its breath. With hunger so raw it felt alive in my chest, the children let go of me all at once. I tumbled, falling endlessly down the stairwell. My scream echoed, swallowed by the black. The iron door grew closer, closer. It burst open, and I saw. No, I can't describe it. My mind refuses, my eyes saw. But my memory has only splintered impressions. Teeth where teeth shouldn't be, limbs bent wrong, eyes too many and too few. A shape that wasn't a shape, a shadow that ate the light. It lunged. I woke with a gasp, my throat raw, sweat pouring down my face. The dining room swam back into focus. Candles still burned. My family still stood in their places, silent, watching. Only Jenna knelt beside me, clutching my hand like an anchor. "You dreamed it, didn't you?" she whispered. My chest heaved. What is it?" Her eyes glistened. "We don't know its name, only its hunger." I pulled back, trembling. My body still felt the phantom touch of the children's hands, the dirt in my lungs. "I saw them," I rasped. "The ones before, the sacrifices, they're still there." Jenna's lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't deny it. My father's voice carried across the table, calm and unyielding. "Now you understand. There's no leaving. Not after this." I staggered to my feet. My legs barely held me. "I'm not a part of this. I never will be." My uncle's laugh was hollow. "It doesn't matter what you want. The dream chooses for you." The grandfather clock struck again. Chains rattled beneath the floor, and for the first time, I realized I could feel the creature moving below. Its breath pushing through the cracks, its heartbeat in rhythm with my own. The dream clung to me like a second skin, refusing to peel away, even as I stood again in that cursed dining room. My pulse hadn't slowed, my chest still burned, as if the dirt and whispers were lodged inside me. Jenna hadn't let go of my hand. Her grip was fierce, almost painful, but it was the only thing tethering me to reality. My family's faces blurred through the candlelight, watching, waiting, patient as predators. Finally, my mother spoke. "You've seen what we are bound to," she said softly. "Now you must hear why." I wanted to scream, to run, but her tone wasn't anger. It was finality, like a teacher delivering the last lesson of the night. And some part of me, God help me, needed to know. "What is it?" I asked. My voice cracked. "Why us?" My father sat slowly, folding his hands on the table. He looked so tired, so human, and that made the words worse. "Because our blood was promised, centuries ago, before we came here, before this house, before this land was even claimed." I blinked. "Promised? By who?" "The first of us," Aunt Marjorie whispered. Her lips curled into a bitter smile. "A coward who wanted power. He struck a bargain." The whispers stirred in the walls at her words, as if the thing below recognized its history. Jenna squeezed my hand harder. Her nails dug deep. "Our ancestor was a man named Elias," she said, her voice barely above a breath. "He was nothing, a farmer with nothing to his name. He begged for fortune, for survival during a famine. And something answered. My stomach turned, and in exchange..." Marjorie's smile widened, eyes glinting. "In exchange, every generation would give one." "One?" My throat went dry. "One of us," my father said. His voice trembled for the first time. "So that the rest may live." The words landed like stones, crushing the last fragments of denial inside me. This wasn't some madness of the moment. It was old, ancient, a chain stretching back through centuries, locked tight around my bloodline. "And if you refuse?" I asked. My mother's eyes darkened. "We never refuse. Those who tried, no graves were left to mourn." I staggered, clutching the edge of the table to steady myself. The photographs from the dossier flashed through my mind. The scratched-out faces, the trembling captions, all of them were my blood, all of them reduced to an offering. Jenna leaned closer, her whisper hot against my ear. "I've spent my whole life knowing it would be me. I saw the signs, the looks. I knew I was next, and then you came tonight." Her words stabbed deeper than any knife. "You think it should be me instead?" Her eyes brimmed with tears. "I don't want it to be you. But once the door opens, it doesn't care who." Marjorie interrupted. "Only that it gets one." The clock struck again. The sound vibrated in my bones. Beneath us, the chains rattled louder, hungrier. I shook my head violently. No, I won't be part of this. I'll expose you. I'll burn this house to the ground. My father rose, his eyes wet, his jaw trembling. "You think we haven't tried? Fire, flight, defiance. We are bound. The blood always pays." The room tilted. My breath came shallow. It was too much, too impossible. Yet the dream, the dossier, the rattling chains, every shred of me knew it was true. I wanted to scream at them, to call them monsters, but the worst truth sank its teeth into me. They weren't monsters. They were prisoners. Prisoners who had chosen survival over conscience, over morality, over love. And now I was caught in the same trap. Jenna's grip trembled. Her lips brushed my ear, so soft no one else could hear. "There might be a way out, but you won't like it." I stared at her, desperate. "Tell me." Her eyes darted to the hidden door, then back to me. "Not here, not in front of them." The family stares burned into my skin, unblinking, hungry, waiting for me to break, and below, the thing shifted again. Chains groaned, stone cracked, the smell of iron and rot seeped into the room. The clock struck once more, and I knew time was running out. The air shifted. I felt it before I heard it. The sudden heaviness, the weight of expectation. My family no longer sat passively. One by one, chairs scraped against the floor as they stood. Their movements were slow, synchronized, like puppets tugged by the same invisible strings. Jenna's hand slipped from mine. Her face was pale, lips trembling, but she didn't stop them. Maybe she couldn't. My mother's voice broke the silence. "It is time." I backed away, my chest heaving. "Stay away from me." No one listened. Uncles, aunts, cousins, all moved in unison, circling. Their eyes glowed faintly in the candlelight, their shadows stretching like claws across the walls. I lunged for the door, wrenching at the handle, still locked. My breath came ragged, my skin prickled with the certainty of prey, realizing it cannot escape the predator's circle. Then Jenna's voice cut through the whispers that were starting again. "Run." Her whisper wasn't to the family, it was to me. Her eyes were desperate, pleading. I didn't hesitate. I bolted toward the side hallway. My footsteps thundered against the old floorboards. Behind me, the sound followed. Chairs crashing, feet pounding, voices rising in that guttural chant. The house became a maze. Hallways I remembered from childhood twisted into unfamiliar corridors. Doors that should have led to bedrooms opened only to blank walls. The wallpaper seemed to shift as I ran, patterns writhing like snakes. Everywhere, the whispers followed. From the floorboards, from the ceiling, from the very walls. "Mine," the voices hissed. "Ours." I stumbled through the kitchen. The smell of raw meat hung heavy in the air. Knives gleamed on the counter. For one wild second I thought of grabbing one, making a stand, but then a shadow fell across the doorway. My father. His face was expressionless, but his eyes burned. "Don't fight it," he said. "It only makes the end worse." I shoved past him, sprinting toward the back door. My shoulder slammed against the wood, and to my shock, it flew open. Cold night air rushed in, sharp and clean compared to the rot inside. I staggered into the yard, gravel cutting into my palms as I fell. The world outside was no safer. The trees loomed like walls, their branches stretching down like skeletal arms. The sky was still that strange twilight bruise, neither night nor morning. Behind me, the family spilled out of the house. Their chanting filled the night. I ran. Branches whipped my face as I plunged into the woods. The ground was uneven, roots clawing at my shoes, stones cutting my ankles. The whispers grew louder, echoing from tree to tree, until it felt like the forest itself hunted me. Shadows moved between trunks. Figures flitted just out of sight, faster than human, closer with every step. I tripped, crashing hard against the earth. Pain exploded up my arm. My breath came in ragged gasps. And then I saw them, dozens of pale shapes, between the trees. At first I thought they were my family, but no. These were smaller, thinner, children, the ones from my dream. Their hollow eyes glowed faintly as they stepped into the clearing, blocking my path. Their mouths opened in unison, releasing that same chant. My skin crawled with the sound. Behind me, branches cracked. My family approached, their silhouettes merging with the trees. Closing in, I was trapped. The children advanced. The family surrounded me, and in the distance, so close now, I heard the groan of the iron door, chains rattling, stone splitting. It was awake. It was coming. Jenna's voice cut through the chaos. I spun and saw her between the trees, her face pale, eyes wide with terror. She beckoned, waving me toward a narrow path I hadn't noticed before. "This way," she cried. I didn't think. I ran toward her. The chanting rose into a roar, the forest itself shaking as if torn between letting me go or pulling me back. Jenna grabbed my wrist and yanked me down the hidden trail. The world blurred into shadows and whispers as we ran, but one thought pounded louder than my heartbeat. This wasn't escape. It was only a delay. The forest seemed endless. Branches clawed at my arms. Shadows shifted at the edge of vision. and the whispers never left my ears. Jenna ran ahead of me, her grip fierce around my wrist, pulling me through the dark as if she alone knew the way out. But deep down, I knew there was no out. Not anymore. We burst into a clearing, the trees bending away as though afraid to touch the space. The ground was bare, nothing but stone cracked through with black veins. At its center stood a circle of candles, each flame burning impossibly steady despite the wind. Jenna stopped, her chest heaving. She let go of my wrist, and for the first time I saw her clearly in the pale glow. Her eyes weren't just wide with fear. They were hollow with resignation. "They'll be here soon," she said. I turned in a frantic circle. "Then let's keep moving." Her head shook slowly. "We can't. This is where it ends." The words sliced colder than the night air. No, you're not giving up." Her lips trembled. "You don't understand. This is the place of choosing." The whispers thickened, pouring from the trees, from the stones, from the very ground beneath us. They wove together into something almost human, almost words. A branch snapped behind us. Figures emerged from the forest one by one. My mother, my father, my uncles, my aunts. Their faces calm, their eyes burning. They moved with ritual precision, stepping into the circle, surrounding us. I backed away until my shoulders pressed against Jenna's. My breath came fast, uneven. "What do they want from me?" Jenna's voice was barely a whisper, a choice. My father stepped forward, his silhouette stark against the candlelight. "You opened the door," he said, steady and solemn. "The pact recognizes you, but the offering can still be decided." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Decided? How?" Aunt Marjorie smiled thinly, her teeth gleaming. "Either you surrender yourself, or you give us another." The clearing tilted beneath me. "Another?" Jenna's hand tightened around mine. I didn't need her to explain. Another meant her. The chant grew louder, vibrating through my bones, through my skull. The children's hollow voices rose from the tree line, echoing the same demand. "One must be given." I shook my head violently. "No, I won't choose. I won't be part of this." My mother's voice cut through, sharp and cold. "Not choosing is still a choice. The pact will take both of you." Jenna's breath caught. She turned, her eyes shining with tears. "Please, don't let it be both of us." The ground trembled. The stone veins glowed faintly red, pulsing like blood. Beneath our feet, something shifted. Closer now, eager. My uncle's knife flashed as he stepped into the circle. "Decide," he hissed. I couldn't breathe. The air itself seemed to collapse around me. My mind screamed in chaos, images flashing. The arm on the platter, the children in the soil, the iron door splitting open. Jenna's voice pulled me back. "If it has to be someone, let it be me. You can still escape." I stared at her, horrified. "No, I won't sacrifice you." Her grip on my hand was iron. "Then it'll be both of us." The circle closed tighter. Candles flared higher. The whispers became a roar, a single word pounding in my skull. "Choose, choose, choose." My father raised his hand, signaling the others. His eyes glistened, sorrowful but unyielding. "This is the only way." The earth split at the edge of the clearing. Red light spilled upward, and the stench of iron and rot filled the air. Chains rattled in the deep. The creature stirred, rising. I screamed into the night, my voice torn between rage and despair. "I won't play your game." The ground shook harder, the candles bending but never going out. The family moved closer, arms outstretched, ready to seize us both. And in that moment, with the world collapsing around me, I realized the truth. The only choice left was to defy the pact itself. The ground wouldn't stop shaking. Cracks split the stone beneath my feet, glowing red like veins of fire. The whispers rose into a deafening chorus, no longer many voices but one, a single, monstrous demand that clawed into my mind. Choose. The circle of candles flared higher, their flames stretching unnaturally tall, casting monstrous shadows of my family across the clearing. They stood unmoving, their eyes glowing, their faces expressionless, awaiting my decision. Beside me, Jenna trembled. Her hand gripped mine so tightly my bones ached. But I didn't pull away. Her tears caught the candlelight as she whispered, "If you don't choose, it takes us both. Please, let it be me." I shook my head violently. My throat burned with rage. "No, I won't give you to that thing. I'd rather die myself." Her lips quivered in a broken smile. "Then you don't understand. It doesn't matter what you want. The pack doesn't care about love. It only cares about blood." The air thickened, heavy as wet concrete. My chest heaved, lungs struggling for air. Beneath us, the chains rattled louder, the earth cracking wider, as though the creature was climbing upward. The smell of rust and rot filled my nostrils, choking me. My father stepped forward. His voice was steady, ritualistic. "This is the law of our blood. One must be given. You can offer yourself, or you can offer her. But you cannot offer nothing," I screamed back at him, voice raw, throat tearing. "This is murder." "No," my mother said coldly. "This is survival." The family closed in, their shadows tightening the circle. My uncle raised his knife. Aunt Marjorie's smile gleamed in the firelight. The others began to chant again, their guttural voices harmonizing with the whispers from the ground. "Choose, choose, choose." Jenna turned to me, her eyes glassy, her face pale as moonlight. "You can end this," she whispered. "If you give yourself, it might finally stop. You're different. It chose you. Maybe you can break it." Her words cut through the chaos like a blade. Break it? Could that even be possible? Or was she only trying to ease the burden of her own death? The creature stirred beneath us. The ground buckled. And for a heartbeat I thought I saw it. Just a glimpse. Through the cracks. Teeth glistening in the red light. Eyes that weren't eyes but endless pits of hunger. The choice slammed into me. Unavoidable. Relentless. Jenna. Or me. If I gave myself, maybe she could live. Maybe I'd be swallowed into the darkness. But at least she'd walk away. If I gave her, I'd survive. But the guilt would be worse than death. And if I chose nothing, the pact would take us both. My legs buckled, forcing me to my knees. My vision blurred. The whispers shredded through me, chanting faster, louder, until I couldn't hear my own thoughts. Choose, choose, choose. Jenna crouched in front of me, cupping my face in her trembling hands. Her eyes locked on mine, desperate and pleading. "Please," she whispered, "don't let it be both of us." My breath shook. My vision swam. Every instinct screamed that I couldn't give her, that I couldn't damn her to that horror. And yet, the pack didn't care about instinct. The earth cracked wide open. Chains snapped like brittle bones. The iron door below burst apart with a sound like thunder, and a rush of fetid breath flooded the clearing. The family stepped back, bowing their heads. The creature was coming. My scream tore from my chest, raw and final. "Take me," the ground answered with a roar. Red light engulfed me. The whispers rose into a howl. Jenna screamed my name, but her voice was drowned out as the earth swallowed me whole. The last thing I saw was her face, shocked, broken, weeping, before the darkness devoured everything. Darkness, that was the first thing. Not just the absence of light, but a weight. A substance pressing against my skin, seeping into my lungs. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. The ground wasn't ground anymore. It was liquid shadow swallowing me whole. The whispers didn't chant now. They laughed, a low rumbling sound that vibrated in my bones. I fell, or floated, or sank. I don't know. Time had no meaning in the black. Then slowly, the darkness peeled back, revealing stone walls slick with blood, a cavern that stretched wider than sight. And in the center of it, the creature, it defied shape. Parts of it shifted constantly, a blur of teeth, claws, and eyes that weren't eyes at all, but bottomless voids. Its body pulsed like an organ, veins glowing faint red, beating in rhythm with the earth itself. It turned toward me. I wasn't supposed to see its face, but I did, and in its shifting mass, I saw fragments, faces of those who'd been given before me, children, cousins, strangers. Their mouths moved in silent screams from inside its flesh. Jenna's words echoed in my skull. Maybe you can break it. I staggered forward, every instinct screaming to collapse. The whispers filled my head, promising relief if I surrendered. You belong to us now. You are ours. I raised my voice, raw and trembling. No. The cavern shuddered. The creature roared, a sound so immense it split the air, shook the stone. Chains rattled around its body, ancient, rusted, but still binding it to the earth. For the first time I saw fear, not in my family, not in me, but in it, because I had chosen. Not someone else, not nothing, myself. And in that choice there was power. The whispers screamed, trying to drown me. My vision blurred with faces, my mother's, my father's, Jenna's, all twisted by the pact. But I pushed forward, step by step, until I reached the chains. I touched one. Agony ripped through me, brighter than fire, sharper than knives. My scream echoed across the cavern, but the chain cracked beneath my hand, shattering like glass. The creature recoiled. It lunged at me, but the shadows held it back, its own prison rebelling against it. I touched another chain, another shatter. Another scream, my flesh tearing, my body burning from the inside out. Still, I pressed on. The whispers shrieked now, frantic, desperate. Stop, stop, stop. But I didn't. One by one the chains fell, until only one remained. I collapsed to my knees, every bone screaming, every vein aflame. My body was no longer mine. I was hollowed out, filled with light and shadow both. But I looked up at the final chain and forced the words through my broken lips. This ends with me. My hand closed around it. The last chain snapped, and the creature screamed, not a roar, not hunger, but pain, rage, fear. The cavern shook as it writhed, its form collapsing, folding inward. The faces in its flesh blinked once, twice, then vanished, released into the darkness. The cavern crumbled, stone shattered, the ground split wide, and then silence. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in the clearing. The candles had burned out, the circle was gone. My family stood frozen around me, their faces pale with horror. The house behind them was dark, its windows empty, its walls sagging as though centuries had passed in a moment. Jenna knelt beside me. Her hands shook as she touched my face. "You're alive," she whispered. Her tears fell warm on my skin. I tried to speak, but no sound came. My throat was raw, my lungs scorched, and then I realized why. The whispers hadn't left. They were inside me now. I staggered to my feet. My family backed away, terror in their eyes. My mother's voice trembled. "What have you done?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know. All I knew was this. The pact was broken. The creature was gone, but the hunger remained, and it was mine. The last sound before the world went black again was Jenna's voice, whispering my name. Not with fear, not with anger, but with something worse, pity.